This is Mason Alexander Park, and you are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Hello, Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap After Show. I'm Albie, and as always, with me is Hayden.
Sorry, if I fall asleep, it's only because I fall asleep during air crash TV shows. So, yeah, but I'll do the best I can.
Thank you, Hayden. And joining us this week, we have from Rama Screen on YouTube. You might have seen him. He's got a lot of cool stuff on his channel, interviews a lot of celebrities. And when I saw him recently, he was interviewing the cast of Quantum Leap. So I thought, why not have him on the show? Rama, welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap After Show.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Albie and Hayden. Thank you for having me. Very awesome to be here tonight.
Yeah,
awesome to have you on.
Look, we can't have, the interviewer of all the Quantum Leap cast and crew at the WonderCon, and not have you tell us all about it. So, in 30 seconds, tell me about your experience with the Quantum Leap cast and crew.
Fair enough. I'm a big fan of the show, so the whole time talking with them, I was geeking out the entire time. You may have seen the videos, talking about Caitlin being a veteran, and I'm Asian American, so I connect with that with Raymond and Nanrisa. That was awesome, and talking about the emotional punch of the show itself. I think the cast were chatty and friendly and engaging. I loved it. It was probably after the press room. When I was editing the videos at the nearest Starbucks, I still had a smile on my face because, remembering all the crack up that we had in that press room. Love it. Loved every minute of it.
That's awesome. So how long have you been a fan of Quantum Leap? Did you watch the original series or did you just start with the new series?
Yeah, I watched the original series when I was a kid. I was a teenager growing up in Asia, in Indonesia. And they aired the episodes there on the TV channel there, the one TV channel that we had back then. So I grew up with those episodes, big fan of Al and Sam. And now, I haven't revisited those episodes like I mentioned to Albie earlier. But now that they're on Peacock, I need to rewatch them again to refresh my memories. But yeah, big fan of the original. And I was skeptical, nervous about this reboot when it was announced. But I started watching it and I loved every minute of it. I think they did it right.
That's awesome. So you've seen the whole season so far, right?
Yes, every episode. And man, those pep talks get to you, man. Love those pep talks.
They hit you in the heart sometimes,
Sorry, Albie, I'm going to have to go off on a little tangent here. All right. When I walked in, I heard the two of you talking about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers anniversary special. And I don't know if any of our listeners remember, but every now and then in my Quantum Deep segments, I'd be able to link Quantum Leap with Power Rangers. So I have to know, Rama, what you've been doing with the Power Rangers special.
Well, we had the Power Rangers 30th anniversary panel at WonderCon as well. And the press room, they invited me to interview Walter Jones. He was the only one there from the original. And of course, Walter Jones is the star of the upcoming Once and Always special on Netflix. So we had I interviewed him and we had a great talk about the legacy of the franchise, and why it lasted this long. And also he shared a few moments remembering Toy and Jason David Frank. And we just had a great talk. And, I'm a big fan. I grew up with the Mighty Morphin, like I said, in the 90s. So I'm looking forward to Once and Always. Can't wait to leap into that one as well.
Walter makes me laugh because occasionally he says that morphing gives him an extra finger because he's missing a finger, but the morphed actor always has all his fingers there.
Which if you don't mind asking, which Ranger was your favorite? Hayden.
Which Ranger? Oh, Kimberly. Everyone loved Kimberly.
Me too.
Pink Ranger for me, Amy Jo Johnson, #1 fan. Yep.
Oh.
And then the Australian who replaced her was great too.
So, Rama, what did you think of The Friendly Skies? Give us your first impressions of this episode.
Let's jump into it. The Friendly Skies, Hayden and Albie, I think it was the second most intense episode this season. The first one to me was still leap, die, repeat, which is awesome. That the Groundhog's Day time loop thing. Big fan of that storytelling format. But yeah, this is the second intense for me. And then I love when the story kind of takes you in for like, kind of misleads you a little bit. Like, okay, maybe this theory is what's happening, or that theory, maybe it's a pilot suicide, maybe it's this, the IRA terrorist attack or hijacking. But I love that twists and turns around it, and of course Corey is a great character in my opinion. Kind of annoying, but he has a heart of gold. So I love this episode. I can't wait for the season 1 finale next week.
Me too. Hayden.
Yeah, well, I think I've been saying throughout the series that I tend to judge an episode as to how easily I'm able to pick what's going to happen. So this was good because I actually didn't get it right this time. I actually thought it was going to be Corey. He's the young guy, isn't he? Yeah, I thought that Corey was going to be in charge of the hijacking. He's all jaded with his parents and wanting to be seen as, someone who takes control. I could totally see him as the hijacker. I thought that Leslie was going to end up being Ben's number 2 and the two of them having to stop everything. So I was a bit surprised that it ended up being the other way around, but at the same time I was pleased because I don't know, Rama, if you've been listening to our after show, but apparently every prediction that I've made so far has ended up coming to pass. So I was actually pleased to see one that I didn't get right for once.
Part of what I love about this show, and I don't think the original version had it, the whole support system, the team. We get to see their story as well, and how they support Ben. And so these surprises and twists and turns is mostly because they think like, oh, Ziggy says this, and turns out it's not really gonna be the same as what Ziggy predicts. I love that. So yeah, go ahead, Albie.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hayden. This episode had so many, not necessarily red herrings, but it was written so well because there were so many things that could go forward, like different TV tropes, different mystery writing things that we're used to seeing. And my head was going right where you were thinking, with different people, maybe who was responsible for it. Because like Corey had a rough life because he was ignored by his parents. So it might have been one of those things where he tried to, because how many times have we seen somebody like stage a kidnapping of themselves to get back at their rich parents that didn't understand them or something. So
it could have ended up very cliche. So I'm glad that it didn't go down the same path that just about every, kidnapping movie or just about every air hostage situation ends up going down. Obviously it did follow some, as you would expect, but yeah, I'm glad it didn't follow them all.
Mm-hmm. I really liked the Leslie turn because like you notice she's like babysitting Corey because that's her job, and she was ex NYPD, so like you said, teaming up with Ben just made sense, but Ben didn't quite trust her. I don't know if he had a reason to, or it was just still the trauma from being stabbed in the neck and not trusting anyone. Like that was the story in this episode too. But I really liked when Corey told Leslie that they were being hijacked, and right then she pulled the gun out and said, "You ruined the surprise." I was like, "Whoa, that was pretty cool." I did not see that coming whatsoever. And this whole episode, there was like tension. The music was really good in the episode. It kept everything like tense, and it was like the plot kept moving, and there kept being one move after another after move after another, and they had to do so many things, and it was not boring at all, and that intensity just kept ramping up. So that was really good. I really liked it.
And Rama, I wanted to add to what you were saying about the support system from Project Quantum Leap, because this particular episode actually really did emphasize the fact that each person on the staff does contribute something to getting through the leap. Like we saw Ian, obviously Ian is the one who helped Ben to land the plane, but also we can see Ian's the one that comes up with the theories through seeing what Ziggy can go through in her predictions. We see that Jen is the head of security. She's the one who has to err on the side of caution. And I thought Magic had some good lines too, because he was able to get into the psyche of people who hijack planes and say it's all about power. They don't really care about the money. They want the power and they want the recognition. So I don't think that anyone other than Magic could have contributed that as well. And that also leads to how they come up with a plan to stop them. So yeah, I thought that the synergy again in this episode between the project and what was going on the Leap was fantastic. I'm so glad that they really are hitting their strides with that now. It doesn't feel like two separate shows anymore. Yeah, so there's not much I can actually complain about in this episode.
That's to your
Not
point.
nothing. Not nothing, I'll just point out, but not much. I'm sure I'll get into some of the things I can point out soon.
Thank you for that. To your point, in this episode, they shut down Ziggy. So everybody's, stripped down to their, kind of basic elements, if you will, and whatever the strengths that each one of them has. Ian, Jenny, and Magic got elevated, because they have to work twice as hard now because Ziggy's not around, in order to help and support Ben. And I like that aspect also of this episode. And to your point, Albie, about Ben not trusting anybody. That's what I love about this show, is that the aftermath of the previous episode counts. It's not like, oh, we're just going to go to this next episode and, as if the previous one didn't affect them. And so, that on this episode, Ben wrongfully accused that one flight attendant, so that plays into also his misjudgment, because he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. So that also is a great aspect of this episode, including the Ziggy getting shut down and stuff like that.
Didn't Ian take it to heart when Ziggy had to be shut down, really feeling like they were shutting Ian themselves down, pointing out, it's like if you tell a musician that the lyrics aren't them and then yelling at them that you suck. At
the 11th grade
I can totally
show,
understand it. Ian's poured their heart and soul into the coding of Ziggy, and I suppose Ian sees Ziggy as an extension of themselves now. So yeah, I suppose it would make perfect sense to have those feelings. And also, I guess Ian, it makes sense now, would be feeling responsible should Ziggy end up going rogue, as we see Ziggy probably will, considering Ziggy's apparently the mole, and why Ian would take the initiative to go and leap back and warn Ben that Ben has to go and leap and put right some big wrong, which apparently we know is going to be, nuclear war, or at least fallout from
what did they say? Nuclear winter in LA. I think that was in
Yeah.
that. I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit, which was crazy ending. We're big fans of Ian here. So when me and my daughter were watching this and Ian was in the cockpit and they and Ben were like working together to land the plane, like my daughter just lost it. She just loved that part. I thought it was so cool. It was cool that Ben recognized Ian, and they said their karaoke song was Under Pressure, which to me, I hope, is a slight promise to the audience that one day, if not the next episode, but one day, we'll see them doing karaoke together and singing Under Pressure. That would be great.
Well, they should really have ended the episode with that song playing over the credits, shouldn't they? I think someone on TikTok, who was it? It was, I think, one of the Fates Wide Wheel boys made a TikTok saying this is how the latest episode should have ended, and then they played Under Pressure over the credits. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of what Rennie was saying in one of our previous after shows, actually, Albie, that Rennie thinks that everything that Ben is doing is to lay some groundwork in order to, do this final battle. It's quite likely that the reason Ben had to leap to this plane is because someone on the plane is going to be integral for being able to do this battle in the future. Or maybe someone on the Tampa submarine who he had to save the life of. Maybe one of them is important. Or you don't actually know what it's going to be yet, but I have a feeling that every single one of these leaps is going to end up having some sort of payoff in the season finale next week as well. I think you can kind of tell I'm excited the fact that we're getting a future leap finally. It's only taken 6 seasons.
Hopefully.
At 35 years.
Along those lines, what stuck out to me was Zelda, which was the woman with Chekhov's insulin pen.
Not to mention Chekhov's Quaaludes.
Yeah, Chekhov's Quaaludes. Zelda, she had a locket with a picture of Carolyn Rose, right? And that was just put in there out of nowhere. I wonder if this Carolyn Rose thing is going to come up because she seemed to be about maybe 8 or 9, 10 in 1971. So she could be like head of some government agency now as an old lady or something. Like it's weird. So I don't know. Just little things like that. I go, why would they include that? Because usually in television, everything means something, or they would not include it. So I just little breadcrumbs like that interest me.
Yeah. So Rama, what did you think about the progression of the leap side of things?
Well, to answer your question with another question, if you don't mind, a big picture question, because it's been a while, like I said, that since the last time I watched the original show, and you guys probably can refresh my memory, but the original version, it was very procedural, right? The story starts and ends on the same episode. So who do you think we should credit for the fact that this new reboot or sequel / remake, whatever you want to call it, it has more of an overarching arc, like cliffhangers on at the end of every episode, Ian leaping into some other person, like, and then so all these other twists and turns, like bigger arc connecting all these episodes. That's awesome. I didn't think that the show would be like that. Who was it? Martin Jarrow or Dean Gregors? Who do you think the credit goes to?
I think we knew that this series was going to end up getting serialization because of the fact that we do have big aspects of the show centered around the project. So that will still have to have progression. But yeah, I'm actually as surprised as you are, Rama, that we're getting serialization even through the leaps, because like you said, in the original series, because of Sam Swiss cheese memory, Sam would essentially forget everything from the previous leap and be essentially starting fresh every single episode. It was very status quo based. Exactly. I think that, I have a feeling since Don and Deborah have their hands in the pie, they're going to probably have quite a lot of say. Maybe this is what they were hoping they might have been able to get into had the original series progressed a bit longer. We did see some elements like this starting to filter in, like the evil leapers, for example, in towards the end of the original series. So I do think Don and Deborah might have had some sort of input, but credit where credit's due. The writing of the series as a whole is top notch. I know that some fans out there will probably strangle me for saying that, but I've been sticking around. I've been enjoying the mystery box side of things, and I'm always keen to find out how it's going to end. This episode was written by Alex Berger. Really fantastic job by Alex. Also directed by Linda Mendoza. Fantastic job by Linda. But yeah, I think we have all the writers, all of the current producers, and obviously Don and Deborah to thank for the way that the series has been progressing.
Speaking of Burger, something came up in my Burger theory. My crazy theory that every episode has some reference that goes to another episode. Shell shock was mentioned in this episode and the previous episode. If you remember, they thought the mad doctor at the beginning of the last episode, Ben Interrupted, thought that Ben Sleepy might have shell shock. So I don't know. I got to work on that some more when I go back and watch the whole season 1 again in order.
Yeah. What I did like about this episode was the fact that with Ziggy down, they had to rely on the internet for this one. And it made me laugh. Like, I think we had a little bit of a nod to the previous incarnation of Quantum Leap as well, because there was the writer of the Reddit thread, Oswald was an alien or something. I think that was what it was called.
Yeah. So that kind of shout back.
Jen was saying to Lee Harvey Oswald, but Jen was saying, "What, you think you can trust this person?" And Ian's like, "You'd be surprised how accurate Reddit seems to get it sometimes." Yeah, but just the fact that they had to rely on everything that was publicly available. I mean, maybe Ian could search in the dark web as well if they're able, but ultimately it's only what is readily available, and they're still able to figure out what Ben's there to do and to fix it. So it kind of feels now like it's accessible even to us mere mortals rather than the massive geniuses over at Project Quantum Leap.
I gotta say though, if I were Ben, I probably would have died by episode 3 because I'm not good at giving pep talks. I'd be like, "You do you, boo, whatever." pep talks are not my scene, man.
Well, maybe that's why Ben had to leap, because Ben seems to be the only one who's capable of making those pep talks and inspiring people to do the right thing. Yeah.
Hayden, I wanted to ask you, a lot of these episodes in season 1 have some kind of similarities to episodes from the original series. And I think that's just unavoidable, because when you have that many episodes of the original series, they're going to touch on so many different subjects. So, of course, they did an episode on a plane. And a couple of the shots in this episode with Ben and Addison kind of reminded me of Sam and Al on a plane. Did you see any similarities between that classic episode and this episode, other than being on a plane?
Ghost Ship, wasn't it? That episode?
I think so, yeah. Bermuda Triangle, right?
Yes. I didn't look that hard, to be honest, but I can see it now that you mention it. I guess maybe they wanted to have a bottle episode, because I think next episode is probably the one that's going to blow the budget. We've already seen the snow. We've already seen like the post-apocalyptic landscape. It wouldn't surprise me if they did want to have a bottle episode, which was essentially set in just a couple of main sets for the plane and the main set for the Quantum Leap headquarters. But I do remember what I was going to say now. I was going to talk about some of the missteps that there was in the writing. Sorry, Rama, something you said reminded me of it, and then I forgot. So I don't remember what it was we were saying, but there was someone on one of the Facebook groups complaining that back in the 1970s, all the aeroplanes did have pressurized air. So when they were essentially using the gas to put the hijackers to sleep, a competent co-pilot would have immediately just pressed the button to get the oxygen masks and would have been breathing normally through that. Yeah, it might have been harder for them to move. You might have been able to fight them off a bit easier when they've had the masks on. But the point is that they didn't find that very believable. And the other thing I wanted to point out is I watch a lot of QI. That's one of my favorite shows as well. And they were talking about TV and movies where, there's been a hijacked plane, or the pilots died, or someone from the crew or someone from the passengers has to land the plane. They said that's never going to be able to happen. Literally, they've done simulations even with some people who have some flight experience in other contexts. They were saying in most cases they couldn't even get the plane to leave the ground, let alone land one. But yeah, anyone who did end up in the air always in the simulations always ended up crashing. So realistically speaking, I don't think Ben would ever actually be able to land this plane, despite how cool it looked having Ian project the essentially not even the runway, but all of the controls and showing everything that would have to be done on the controls in order to be able to do it. Well, it was a fantastic scene, very tense, and I did also really like the banter between Ben and Ian. How Ian was saying, "There's a reason why we aren't the trivia champions anymore," and Ben's like, "Maybe this isn't the time. Hey, if you crash the plane, this might be the only chance I have to tell you." And then Ben's like, "Hey, you're the one who made me leap in the first place. All right, let's not point the finger."
That was funny. And that's not funny. And then that's a little bit funny. That was funny. Yeah, I laughed out loud a few times in this episode.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing that made me laugh, after they landed the plane, the guy who'd knocked himself out with the Quaaludes wakes up and is like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, he had no idea what was going on.
He didn't know what had been happening.
Yeah. That's the person I wish was Billy Idol, but didn't happen. That was funny.
Yeah.
That scene didn't bump me, the landing of the plane, because of Ian had the display, and I figured, it would be like almost he just had to like follow the dots or whatever the program laid out. So it took a lot of the guesswork out of it to me.
Yeah.
And who knows? He might have done flight sims, Microsoft Flight Sim. That might be his game or something. You never know.
Yeah.
He might have been a pilot.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this episode makes me appreciate or admire Scott and Raymond all the more, because I don't know if I would be able to survive wearing high heels and skirt, and the way Scott did it in the original and the way Raymond did it, wearing women's clothes, is like, man, it's got to be tough. I mean, it was tough watching them. It's got to be tough wearing it, wearing those things.
Oh, I tell you what, though, that flight attendant's uniform, Ben looked, wow.
Right? I was thinking that. I was like, Ben looks really great in that skirt, but of course it's tailored to him and everything like that. And I love how the new series is handling the whole when the leaper leaps into a woman, because in the original series it was like a joke, and in the States here we have certain hate groups that are trying to outlaw men wearing women's clothing or something. It's ridiculous. We're going back in time, but the wrong way. But I like that Ben seems to leap into women more than men, and that comment from Addison, you look really good in that skirt or something like that, and Ben just goes, "Thank you."
Yeah, and Ian said the same thing too. That's a good look for you.
Well, Ben, did you see Ben's legs in this episode? I'm saying, I guess it's tailored to him. I couldn't wear that skirt. I think parts of me would be hanging out. That was a very short skirt.
Look, the high heels help. Let's just say.
Yeah, it helps the line of the legs, I guess. So
committed man, committed actor he is.
Yeah, great actor. It seems like he'll do anything. So, and it pays off.
It did make me laugh seeing how different a flight was in the 1970s compared to now. Like even the fact, all the flight attendants were being sexually harassed the whole time, which isn't good, but you have to place it in the 1970s. And like Holly was saying, we just have to get through it. Just service with a smile. And Ben saying, my God, they've been leaving handprints all over my ass and shit like that. Yeah. But even, people asking for ashtrays and lights for their cigarettes on the planes. Yeah. Actually, I got a fun fact about that. Did you know back when you could actually smoke on the plane, the air was better quality in the plane?
Really?
Yeah. Why do you think that might be?
More filtration, maybe?
Yeah, they had to filter it. Yeah.
Like some kind of HEPA or smoke filter?
They don't really filter it
CO2
anymore.
Scrubbers?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, people were eating lobster on the plane. I think the last plane ride I took, I got a bag of pretzels, and it was tiny, and half a can of Diet Coke in a plastic cup. I was like, thank you. I'm a big guy. I need more than a little bag and a half a can of soda. I drink like a 12-pack of soda an hour, so that's just me.
Well, on all the budget flights that I go on, you don't even get given anything. If you want it, you have to buy it. So
really,
yeah, they tend to make a lot of money off me.
Are you the guy that claps at the end because you were passed out from your liquor and drugs?
Liquor? I don't even know her.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Rama, what were you asking?
Oh no, I just want to bring up this. I don't know, maybe it's just my observation, but it seems that the writer of this episode also kind of takes some inspiration from the missing Malaysian airline MH370, because there's references about the last thing we got from this flight was that distress signal. Not even distress signal. No distress. Just like hello, and then it's gone from the radar. And then the last thing we found was the part of the wing, which is also MH370. They found that part of the wing. I think the writer took some inspiration out of that a little bit.
Yeah, they could have gone a lot of different ways actually when they had a hijacking plot. I had a feeling maybe it might have ended up a little bit like the flight from 9/11, which was bound for the White House, but the passengers fought back, and so they crashed the plane instead of crashing it into the White House. I thought it might have ended up a little something like that.
A little bit of that as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they touched on that a little bit with the guy pushing the beverage cart and the woman hitting the other hijacker over the head with a bottle, and yeah, that was worked in there. I liked how they handled the subject, because it could be a touchy subject because, airline tragedies happen and hijackings happen, but I think they were able to balance that line with keeping it entertainment without.
Well, it's a fine line, isn't it? You have
it's
to
a fine
try
line.
Avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Try
but they did well.
it. Ian had a good comment too, saying back then the screening process was dog shit. Just they didn't even have the names of the passengers, let alone any backgrounds of them, so they couldn't really do any screening, even if they had Ziggy. All they really had information of was the pilots and the crew. So yeah, I suppose we can feel lucky that we do have the extra safety protocols now.
It was a very different time. So, but so many tragic things happen that they had to improve. So I guess that's how you learn. You make mistakes and you learn from your mistakes. That's how our society keeps moving forward, hopefully. We do have one interview for this episode. It's a great interview with Davida Williams, who played Leslie, the babysitter / hijacker. So
nice.
We have to go to that. But do we have a sponsor for this week's episode, Hayden?
Yeah, well, our sponsor, as usual, is CanPakes. And look, I don't know about you, Albie, but I have a lot of trouble sleeping. I just can never turn my brain off. But we've got brand new maple cubes now. As soon as you open up the packet, you get this big blast of air, and then you have the most peaceful sleep you can imagine. So we happen to see some of it get utilized in this very episode. Perfect product placement.
Perfect. Yeah, a little less combustible from the can ones. I think they're Maple Cubes PM, only in the 2023 edition of CanPakes, Pancakes in a Can. And you can go to our website, quantumleappodcast.com/CanPakes, follow our affiliate link, and you get 23% off through the end of this season, which is this week and next week. So order those quick. And the more you order, the more you save. So
that's it. And also, just something else our viewers might really enjoy. If you have a look on YouTube, you can actually find a real CanPakes. They're available in vending machines in Japan. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And the funny thing is too, they have this really beautiful design on the can itself, but then they open it up and start eating it. The can's actually clear and they're just showing you what the actual cake looks like. So yeah, really awesome stuff. So go on YouTube, mostly you can see cream. Real CanPakes. Yeah, and
I'll put the link below because that was very interesting. You sent me that, Hayden, and I thought it was a really nice painted can, but then they just started eating strawberries and whipped cream, and it was crazy. So I want one of those vending machines here. All right, so CanPakes, quantumleappodcast.com/CanPakes. Check it out, and that'll help out the show because we get a little bit of kickback also, but they are our sponsor. And we'll go to the interview right now with Davida Williams, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Matt. I'm here with Albie and Chris, and today on the podcast we have a very special guest with us. We have joining us Davida Williams, who played Leslie in the latest episode of Quantum Leap. Davida, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you guys?
We're great. We're very happy you could join us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So before we talk about your time on Quantum Leap, and we've just seen the episode, we're super excited about it, so we want to delve into that as soon as possible. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in acting, a bit about your background?
Yeah, so I grew up in Los Angeles, and I, kind of have a family of artists. My dad was a musician. He played the guitar for Michael Jackson for about 30 years and Madonna for years. And I always wanted to be in entertainment, just not in that capacity, not in music. I have a little sister who's a musician. So I started auditioning very young and I started doing sitcoms. I did Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Sister Sister and all those shows. And then during high school, I did a Disney show called Lizzie McGuire. And I've been working ever since.
Well, so a child star, and not everyone who starts off in the business that young sticks with it. For you, was there ever any doubt when you kind of grew up? Did you think maybe I'll shift somewhere else?
Yeah, I definitely took breaks. After I graduated high school and stopped, Lizzie McGuire was done, I took a break for a couple years. I worked at an agency, a modeling agency, because I thought maybe, I wanted to be on the other side. And then I realized I definitely don't want want to do that. So yeah, I've definitely taken breaks and tried different things, but then I just always end up back
where it all started.
Yes.
So what settled you back into acting after your break doing modeling? Talk us through kind of.
Well, I wasn't
part of your
actually a
life.
model. I was a modeling agent, like a junior agent, and it's a lot of work. I have the utmost respect for agents and managers, and yeah, it's a lot. But then I remember I heard about an audition for a soap opera, and I hadn't auditioned in like 2 years, and I was like, you know what, let me just try. So I took the train to Brooklyn and I auditioned for it, and I ended up booking it. So then I just quit my job and started a soap opera. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got back.
Yeah, that'll do it, right?
Yeah.
I booked some work. I'm back in.
I was like, you make it sound so easy.
And it really, I know that did sound really easy saying that, but it's definitely not. It's definitely a lot harder than that, but it just happened to be the right role and the right situation. And yeah.
Yeah. So how did that lead to you getting the role on Quantum Leap?
That was a tape. That was one of, I don't know if you know how the auditions go now. We don't really do a lot of in-person auditions. You have to send in a tape to casting directors and all of that. And that was one of my first tapes of the year. And then I taped it, I sent it in, and you kind of just have to send those things in and forget about them because you never know if you're going to hear anything. And then like a week and a half later, my manager called and was like, you got it. So it was exciting. It's such a great show to be a part of. So.
And what was the turnaround like after you'd heard that great news that you'd landed the role? Was it straight into filming?
It was pretty quick. Their episodes are about 8 days long, which a lot of shows are 5 days, but theirs are a bit longer. So it was pretty quick because you have to COVID test now, and I had to do a fitting, and I got to try on all these really cool clothes from the 70s that they found, which was fun. Even though we only ended up using one outfit, but yeah, I got to try on some really cool stuff. So yeah, it was straight to hair and makeup test as well before I shot, and then shooting.
Awesome. Did you have much say in the final choice of the costume? You said you tried on a few different outfits.
Yeah, a few different things. I didn't really. You don't have that much control, especially as a guest star. But I loved so many of the things that I tried on, so I wasn't. I didn't really care what they chose, and they ended up picking one of my favorites anyway. So yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that it wasn't such a flamboyant costume, but that wouldn't have fit the character anyway, because Leslie was not only a police officer, but she was also trying to avoid attention until the right moment. So.
Yes. Yeah, so it wasn't too over the top 70s.
So, I mean, I have to assume that was all a giant set. It looked like it was very expansive. I know that part of the episode they were trying to like bring you back to the heyday of flying, in the sense where you had these huge jumbo jets that had a couple of floors that had all of the, the cocktails and the food and everything. And I mean, what was it like stepping onto that set? Because it seemed so expansive on camera.
It was so cool. It was really cool. I took a lot of behind the scenes videos of the plane itself because it was awesome. I was sitting in the cockpit for a few scenes and I was like, is this a real plane? And they were like, yep, we're using it. They were using like actual plane parts. So it was really cool. I've never actually shot on a plane and I wasn't aware of how they do those kinds of things. And it was cool. It had multiple levels, and first class section and cocktail area. And I mean, I wasn't around for those. I don't think I've been on a plane like that. So it was, I mean, I'm sure they, exist, but I've never been on a plane that large. It was cool.
It's safe to say that I don't think any of us on this panel have been on a plane that large.
No. Yeah. It would kind of make me a little bit nervous, I think. Just, I don't know how planes work, but having that much metal in the air is just, I don't know how safe I feel.
So it was a plane in a building. Is that how that worked, or was it?
Yeah, they film on a lot, and so it was in one of the big sound stages, and they just like rebuilt this plane, and then we shot in it. It was really, really cool.
Wow.
So everything was.
Yeah, it was literally on this one. They were like, you're really lucky because a lot of times we go on location and we're all over the place filming, and we just got back from location. But my entire episode was literally just in this plane. So I just had to go to one place every day. Yeah.
You're part of the episode. One of the main parts of the episode is the reveal that you're one of the hijackers. So, was it difficult to play like not a hijacker that was a hijacker in the first half, and was that different from playing the hijacker in the second half?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, the director, her name is Linda Mendoza. She was awesome, and she really wanted to make sure that I was like, am I playing this kind of mysterious? And she was like, no, we don't want to give anything away. So, I was just trying to really be kind of incognito in the beginning, and then, I reveal my true motives kind of later on. So yeah, I was just trying to not give anything away at the beginning.
Did you have any weapons training for that scene where you pull the gun on Ben?
So I have never really had any weapons training. But Caitlin, she was so helpful because, she has this background, this Army background. And I'm very hesitant about firearms on set just because I myself had never done it. And also mistakes happen. And I didn't want anything to happen, but she was very, very helpful in before we shot. Every single time they do safety testing and all of that kind of stuff. And she wanted to look inside the gun every single time. And, and I learned a lot because they don't really teach you. They don't really teach actors beforehand. So you kind of are like thrown into it. And so it was really nice to have her there and have her knowledge because she knows.
So tell us a bit about that experience on set. You said that you were working with Caitlin a little bit behind the scenes, but give us a little bit more about working with Ray and sort of the general atmosphere, because it's for this iteration of Quantum Leap. It's unique to the series. It's the first time they've ever done almost like a bottle show entirely on such a small stage. We were just maybe 3 sets in this one, yet you felt. It felt authentic. So I just want to know about sort of the process that went into the shooting and maybe describe some of that stuff for us.
Well, the vibe of the set is it's awesome. Everyone is so nice and friendly, and like the crew and the cast, I can't say enough good things about them. And a lot of times, especially when you come in as a guest star, it can be nerve-wracking because you don't know anybody and everybody's already established and they have these relationships. But Raymond is amazing. Caitlin's amazing. Everybody on that show is so cool, and makeup and hair and all of that. But filming itself was actually like really efficient. I never waited around. I feel like on every set, you're always, sitting around waiting for hours until you go. But that was also a testament to Linda Mendoza, the director. She knows what she wants. And we kind of went in, did a couple times, moved on. She was very direct and she knew what she wanted. So, they were like 12-hour days, like normal, but she got it. She pumped it out. We were never overtime or any of that.
I had a question. You have a kissing scene in this episode with Bart, the guy who plays the other hijacker, the co-pilot of
yes.
in the show. With all the COVID protocols, has that changed things like kissing scenes? Is there a special preparing you have to do, or?
Yeah, you have to because sometimes when you you have to do a COVID test like once every 4 days or something like that. It's like 3 or 4 days. And then if you have something like that, you have to do it again that morning before it happens. So yeah, the protocol has changed a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Could I just ask you about something else? I rewatched your episode of Deep Space Nine this morning. Do you have any memory of that? Children of Time.
I was going to go.
I got
there
really
too.
excited
Oh
when
my
I looked
God.
at
We had to
segue at
IMDb
some
and
point.
saw Deep Space Nine. You know how? Do you have
It's
any memory
so
of that?
funny. It's so funny. I do have a little bit of memory, and I had a girl named Shira that was in the episode, and we stayed in touch. And I was so young that I didn't understand how cool that job was. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a, I mean, Star Trek. It's crazy to be a part of something like that. But I did think it was really cool because I had this, that red jumpsuit, and then I had those spots that they had to draw all over my face. And I remember I had never had any kind of makeup like that done to me. So I remember being that age and being like, this is kind of cool. It's like Halloween a little bit. But that was, it was pretty awesome to be on that set and get to kind of, be an alien essentially. And it was fun. Long time ago though. Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't figured it out, we're not only Quantum Leap fans, but we're 3 huge Star Trek fans too.
Yeah.
There's no way you're getting out of the interview without asking about DS9. Tell us everything you can remember about DS9.
Yeah, I wish I remembered more, but I did remember definitely like the spots and the red outfit, and it was cool. It was pretty cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really cool. So I mean, can you had a bunch of scenes with Ray in this one? Can you talk about working with Raymond Lee?
Oh, he's so nice. He's just the kindest person, and I think he's part of the reason why that set is so relaxed, because the lead kind of sets the tone for the show and how what people can get away with essentially, and mistreatment and things like that. So everyone's just so nice, and he's really cool, and he's really easy to talk to. And we talked about his kids and his family, and he's just like a family guy. We kind of live near each other. It was really, I'm really glad that I got to work with him. I'm really glad. He's also very talented. So that too.
Did anything change from when you got the script to when you started filming?
No, I think the story was pretty much the same. There were a couple of lines that they changed a little bit, or they would just tweak a couple words here and there. But for the most part, the tape that I did ultimately was the character, and the audition that I did ultimately was what I was doing on screen. It was pretty similar. Yeah.
I'm interested in understanding more about the atmosphere on the set, because you talked about it being kind of a well-oiled machine, if I can paraphrase you, and everything seemed to be very, very smooth and efficient. It felt watching it like it was a very high energy episode. It was one of those episodes that it didn't let up. It didn't let you breathe. We're also, as fans, watching it, getting ready for the season finale as well. So it's that just ups the stakes. Was there any feeling of that on set, or how did that translate to the feelings on set? Was there a kind of a feeling of energy there along with that efficiency?
There was. There were so many scenes that were so fun and so high energy. I mean, when we get smoke bombed in the cockpit and we're like choking and banging on the door, it was a lot of high energy. It was a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of also. Oh, there's also this part where you see a lot of turbulence happening on the flight, but that was just us kind of like shaking in our seats, like we kind of just did that ourselves. There was nothing was actually shaking. So I'm glad you felt that it was such high energy and high stakes, because I was like, I hope this looks okay. I'm kind of just shaking.
I don't know about the guys. I assume that was on gimbals or something, but was that the old-fashioned you shake around, the camera shakes around, and the old Star Trek method?
The kid sitting next to me, who's the airline owner's son, he was shaking his knees under the table like the little
Hmm.
table on his seat, and he was making it, and it was making everything shake. So it was just us. It was kind of faking that, and I was holding
Oh, lovely.
champagne, just going like this,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I'm glad it looked realistic, because I've never done anything that high stakes before, an action, and I'd never held a firearm in anything before. I did a lot of Disney, so this
Yeah.
was like a first of a lot of things for me. So I'm glad that it felt the way it was supposed to feel.
It was 45 minutes or 42 minutes of sort of non-stop edge of seat,
Okay, good.
almost praying for it to just pause and breathe, but at the same time
Okay.
not.
Good. I'm glad.
And then the end credits happen.
Oh my God, I'm glad. I haven't even seen it, but I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Was the smoke in the cockpit, was that all in post, or was there actually like some smoke on the day?
No, they smoked us out. It's like that, that dry ice or whatever it is. So it wasn't actual smoke, but I remember texting my mom really excited about it. I was like, "We're about to get smoke bombed, Mom." It was fun. It's just, stuff that I'd never experienced before.
So now that you have Quantum Leap in your rear view mirror, where can our listeners be seeing you next? Do you have any upcoming projects?
Just right now, last week actually, with one of my co-stars from Lizzie McGuire, we launched a podcast where we go through the episodes and we talk about the episodes. It's called Living Lizzie, a very McGuire podcast. So I think the first 3 episodes are out now. They come out every Friday, and they're on, Apple and Spotify and wherever podcasts are. And yeah, and I'm just sending in lots of tapes and, seeing what works.
I don't know, episode by episode podcasts, it'll never take off.
Fan casts? Wow. I mean, people that just talk about their favorite shows.
So that first I was like, wait, is he being sarcastic? Yeah, obviously. No.
I am being sarcastic. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that, people like them, and I actually hadn't really heard of them. I'm not a big listener of podcasts. I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and then suddenly I'm hearing about all of these show podcasts of these either current shows or old shows, and you're talking about the episodes, and it's been fun. I hadn't seen Jake Thomas, who's my co-star. I hadn't seen him in person in years, so we got together, and it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, you're on the leading edge of a lot of the fan casts, because it seems to me that's the newest trend is getting the people who are actually in the show coming back so many years later to talk about the show. I think the one of the top podcasts now is Pod Meets World. And it's got 3 of the main cast from Boy Meets World. So I mean, you're sort of you're on the leading edge there when it comes to fan casts. So
yeah, that's we really started it not really. We're like, if this works, great. If it doesn't, but we've gotten a great response, it seems, on social media and stuff. So, and it's been fun,
A lot of people still like Lizzie McGuire. I was pleasantly surprised watching How I Met Your Father, and they used a flashback to Lizzie McGuire for that show too, because it showed Hilary Duff younger. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what Jake was telling me, is that they refer back to her like Lizzie days, that's cool.
Yeah, so that'd be cool.
So I know Albie is not going to ask because he probably doesn't want to intrude, but we have a resident huge Michael Jackson fan sitting with us today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he would love to hear any MJ stories you might have to give, considering your history, or your dad's history. I guess.
You mentioned both my favorite artists growing up, so Madonna and Michael Jackson.
And Madonna's. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, both of those were my 2 first concerts. I was like baby, Michael holding me backstage. And it was just such a big part of my childhood, because it was my dad's job for 30 years, and they became really close. And I'm still, I'm close with a lot of the nieces and the nephews, and because they were all close with my dad as well. And but yeah, I just remember like not even really knowing how cool it was. I remember I invited a bunch of my girlfriends and guy friends actually one year. I think I was like 12, 13 to Neverland for my birthday, and we like slept there and stuff, and we had our own little like cabins and things, and we did all the rides, and I had this like, there were all these golf carts you'd drive around that looked like Escalades and things, and I didn't have a license. I was very little, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And yeah, and I like, so I knew that it was fun going on rides and seeing all the animals, but I don't think I understood like the scope of it until I got older. And one of my friends was like, "Remember you took me to Neverland?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess we did we did do that." Yeah, but my dad would take me to Neverland all the time. On the weekend or whatever. It was like a 2-hour drive from LA, and so those were I think my fondest memories, was just like having an amusement park to yourself, basically. It's pretty crazy to think about.
What a way to grow up. That's crazy.
I know. It really is. It is strange to like say it out loud and be like, that was my childhood. But it is, I'm still, a huge fan too. I think I'm so jaded too, because you go to concerts now and you're like, oh, well, this isn't like the concerts I'm used to going to, with all the like pyro and
ruins you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was good times.
Yeah, traveling around with two of the biggest acts in the world at the
Yeah.
time. So,
Yeah, that was the other thing that was cool, is I got to do a lot of traveling when I was little to go visit my dad. So that was cool.
What was it like working with that young actor that your character was bodyguarding?
Oh, he was so great. He was awesome. He is a college student at Duke. He was extremely smart. He was a history major. And I remember asking him, we were sitting next to each other on the plane, and I remember like we'd have some time to talk. And I remember asking like, how do you do acting tapes in college? Like, who tapes you? Who reads with you? Who's like, and he's like, it's very difficult to find like a college kid who just wants to come to my dorm and tape me and read and stuff, but he gets it done. And so he was like extremely smart. And I think he was also a child star. He was on a Nickelodeon show for a while. Yeah, and then he's like taken a little break for college, but clearly he missed a little bit to come back here and do Quantum Leap. Yeah, he was great.
Well, I mean, getting to Quantum Leap, this is a question we usually ask a lot earlier in the interview, but I know that you were globetrotting with the biggest acts in the world in the 80s and the 90s, but were you familiar with the original Quantum Leap? Did you have any history with the original series?
I didn't at all. I knew that this was a remake, but I hadn't watched it, and I kind of similar to the Star Trek thing. I think that's the genre that's just I've never gotten into. Not that I don't like it, I've just actually never seen any of it, and like the sci-fi shows and things. So maybe I should start doing that since I've been involved in all this sci-fi.
Well, we can tell you this. You are on a really good episode of Quantum Leap, and you're on a really you of DS9. So that's a good place to start.
Thank you. Yeah.
The universe is telling you something.
Yeah, they are. I am excited to watch, though. I'm really excited.
Do you have special plans for watching the episode tomorrow night, I guess? This time, pretty close.
Yeah. I was my mom is in town. She lives on the East Coast usually. So we were thinking I'd get together with my mom and my sister to watch it, which would be nice.
Awesome. Nice.
And I love that you guys get it early. That's so great.
We love it too.
It's very useful. Well, this interview has taken us down some routes that I've got to admit I was not expecting. We've talked about so many different things. Davida, it's been so much fun having you on the show. Thank you so much. And hopefully the fans will seek out your podcast. And I know you said you're sending off a lot of tapes at the moment, so hopefully we'll see you in some more stuff later this year. But for now, once again, just thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
And we're back. How about Davida Williams? She is cool. I had no idea that she was on Lizzie McGuire, and she's got her own podcast all about Lizzie McGuire now, which is cool. Another fellow podcaster and also an actor. And she was held by Michael Jackson as a baby. Her dad worked for Michael Jackson and Madonna, going on the road world tour. Things you find out when you talk to people. I would have had no idea if we didn't talk to her about that kind of stuff. So very cool. It was great that she was on.
I'm very jealous.
We do have Bart Johnson on the hook, so hopefully we'll get him interviewed in the next few weeks. He played the co-pilot, one that was the other hijacker, the co-pilot. He was on vacation with his family this week, so we couldn't get the schedules to work to have it for this show. But maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll get an interview with Bart Johnson, find out his take on the filming of the episode. I found it really cool that it was an actual airplane, but taken apart and put into a building for a set. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, I liked the scene in the episode with Ben trying to convince the two pilots that maybe they should deviate from their course because of the bad weather, and the condescending older pilot is like, "Oh, you go focus on doing the job that you're being paid to do," and Ben's just like, "Well, is this plane got any mechanical issues? I don't know. It's not all that new." And the guy starts grilling Ben about, so what's some of these specifications? How much fuel do we need? And I just loved how Addison was getting the information. Ben's regurgitating it. And I wonder if maybe they could have used that scene in the wrap-up with saying what happened to all the crew. Maybe they could have said Liz became a pilot after that, and although I suppose the main pilot died, so he couldn't vouch for her. But yeah, it would have been cool if something did get paid off from that. Yeah, I like the fact that Liz did get to go to the White House, and Jen made me laugh. She must be very confused.
Like, what is going on? Yeah. Rama, what did you think about Holly in this episode? The other stewardess, the main flight attendant.
Yes, the one that was wrongfully accused.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, I think she's fantastic. I mean, like you know what? I mentioned to you guys earlier how this episode kind of misleads me. That she was one of them that when I was like fully convinced that she might be in on it. She may have something to do with this. So that's one of the twists and turns. I know, but I love how quickly she kind of not necessarily forgave Ben, but like, okay, fine, you wrongfully accused me, but we got to do this to survive. That was very.
That's the thing. Your enemy's enemy is your friend, aren't they? So
Exactly.
even though she might be pissed off, she realizes that she needs Ben's help. So,
yeah, because if I were Holly, I would have probably helped that grudge. Like, why should I help?
Well, we don't know if she didn't either, do we? Although with Ben/Liz saving everyone on the plane, maybe I think Holly would have forgiven her. But having said that, though, it was quite a red herring. We once again have a red-haired red herring. Because they were researching, right? Yeah, well, especially from the original series too. But we did get the information about how even though her record is squeaky clean, she's shacking up with a guy who's in the IRA. Apparently, that group had been involved in some terrorist attacks, so it does make sense then that they would suspect Holly. So unfortunately, just a person who seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot.
Well, it was great that she was a red herring for the audience, and that she was also a red herring for everyone at headquarters, because they were going down that path pretty hard for quite a while. So that I think that made it even better for when we found out who the real hijackers were.
Yeah. And I like the overarching theme throughout the episode that Ben needs to trust his instincts. All right. Yes, he trusted the wrong person in the previous episode, but also he can't not trust anyone at all. So Addison was pointing out just how spot on his instincts usually are. The fact that, he might have been screwed over in the previous episode, but he wouldn't have been able to complete the task if he hadn't gone through that anyway. It's good seeing that little bit of character development from Ben. Because I always had the worry that Ben would fall down the sort of Sam Beckett path of being like too perfect to be real. that how Sam seems to never really do anything wrong. There are a few episodes that humanize him through the series, like being selfish when he left home. But on the whole, generally, he just does what he has to do because of the Boy Scout in him. So I did have the fear that Ben might go down that path as well. And yeah, he is generally a good person, but we are seeing, I think, more character flaws in Ben than we did see with Sam. So I was very pleased to see some character development with Ben there. I was also going to say, it appears like in the original series, a leap will heal someone. Because we didn't know if after Ben leapt, while he was dying, essentially, whether he'd survive or whether he still would have his injuries when he did land, but he seems perfectly fine. So I don't know if it's like in the original series where he'd be in limbo for a little while and that's presumably where he heals, or if it's the leaping process itself that heals him, but we do know that he will end up healed. So that's a nice little nod to the original canon as well.
I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself here, but how on this episode it was mentioned, like, hang in there, Ben. You're on the final stretch of this marathon. You're almost at the final leap. You're gonna go home. I mean, Albie, Hayden, we all want multiple seasons of this new Quantum Leap. So how are they gonna justify? Okay, it's supposed to be his last leap, but not really his last leap. So that's gonna be like the $1 million question.
Yeah.
If you know
well, we don't actually know, do we? Because there is the chance that maybe it is Ben's last leap, and yes, it's been renewed for season 2, but we've not got no guarantee that Ben is going to continue to leap. It could be maybe Ben's in the future now. Maybe somehow he can communicate with the past. Maybe they reboot Ziggy or something and he's able to communicate with the past and give them some information. And maybe it could be that we know that Ian is going to end up leaping to set the original series in motion. Maybe at the end of the episode, we actually see Ian's initial leap. And then season 2 could be some of the Ian Chronicles, perhaps. That, I think, would be really interesting. But yeah. And also, remember there was the episode where the person from the government was inspecting Project Quantum Leap and was going to shut it down. And then Magic convinced her not to do that because they have the ability to save her brother. Well, Magic shouldn't be writing checks his butt can't cash. So there's also the possibility that, in order to keep Project Quantum Leap running, they have to send a leaper back to do that. And we've got no guarantee that it has to be Ben. I mean, we're seeing rotating holograms now. We've seen Addison, Jen, and Ian in the imaging chamber. I don't see any reason why we might not end up with rotating leapers too. So
if they can get Ben home, that would be great.
Yeah.
So well, where do we think it is going to lead in the next episode, where we find they're in this apocalyptic future where apparently there's been nuclear explosions and they're in a nuclear winter now?
Is it time for crazy theories?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Rama.
Haven't you been listening to me, Albie? I've been saying nothing but them all through the whole after show.
That's what I said. I'm getting ahead of myself.
So what do you think's going to happen in the next episode, Rama? What are you looking forward to, hoping to see?
That's the thing. Theories are Hayden's thing. I'm not good at predicting stuff, but
well, I'll give you a word of advice, Rama. If you just predict everything, then you can't ever be wrong. At some point, you have to get it right.
But obviously, now that he has leapt into the future and met Ian's, future Ian, something gone terribly wrong. Because that's not how it's supposed to be. So. That's what I want to find out in this final season 1 finale episode, appropriately titled Judgment Day. It's like, what went wrong here? What caused the nuclear war? But I definitely like Ian's new look, older look. That's pretty cool. But yeah, predicting theories, I have no idea what's going to happen. I just want season 2 already.
Well, it appears we're going to be still getting quite a bit from present day, because I think in the preview we do see Addison have a run-in with Martinez. I'm not sure how Ben's going to be able to stop that when he's in the future, but maybe, like I said, he must be able to communicate with the people in present day somehow. Apparently Ziggy is there, even though she's shut down. I think they must be going to reboot her somehow.
And besides Ian, we don't know who else survived, right? Besides Ian.
Yeah. Right. We saw Ian, but anybody else could be part of the project still. Who knows? But it looked pretty desolate, post-apocalypse. That's something I think that was my favorite part of this episode, even though, of course, the whole leap was great and everything was great in the episode. But that last few minutes where it just showed the couple minutes of Judgment Day, I was just super psyched. I think we rewatched that like 5 times in a row.
Quantumator 2, Judgment Day.
Yeah, it might go along those lines. I mean, time travel, and sending people back into the past to fix the future or change the future. So
I'm really hoping we get to hear Deborah Pratt as Ziggy. We see Ziggy. Can we please hear her?
That would be great. Well, that's another thing. We didn't really see any more Ziggy in this episode. I mean, yes, Ziggy was put offline, turned off for this episode.
Well, when Ben leapt into the future, didn't we see some remnants of Ziggy? Literally, we saw a little part
blown up
Ziggy. Yeah. Blown up Ziggy.
Yeah. So that was interesting, but I was hoping to see more along the Evil Leaper or the red LED Ziggy thing, something. But like, I guess maybe next episode. Did you guys watch the preview for the next episode? The next week on Quantum Leap kind of thing. There was very little.
But I don't remember much from it, to be honest.
Okay, I'll remind you.
This might be a good place to. Yeah, this might be a good place to insert it. By the way,
that's what they said.
I leaped across time and space to save you. Your life is in danger. You have to believe me.
So Rennie and I went frame by frame because there wasn't that much, but you see, it looks like Leaper X has leaped into someone, and we don't know who Leaper X leaped into. Martinez leapt into, but one thing we did notice was they had that ring, the ring they've been talking about all season. That was Al's, that now is Janice. So at first I thought, wow,
Janice?
maybe Martinez has leapt into Janice. But the clothes were very masculine leaning. So not something that we'd see Janice wear normally. So I was like, maybe
Martinez he's leapt into Magic. Because Magic will have a military ring too.
My brain didn't go there. But where my brain did go was...
Well, that would be a good place for Martinez to go, though, too. Because, think of the Evil Leaper episodes. When they're in the prison... Who do they choose for Zoe to leap into? The one who has all the power, Myers. So it would make perfect sense that if Martinez needs to do something at the project, he'd want to be in the one that has all the power to do it. So, yeah, I could see Martinez having leapt into Magic.
My brain went to what if he leapt into Al? Because this might have been before Ben leaped originally. Because if you look at Addison, she seemed kind of younger for some reason. So I thought maybe somehow Martinez leaps into Al because Al would have access to the project. And that ring was pretty much in focus in the preview. And the ring was either Janice or Al. I don't know if other people have rings that look like that, but that's why I went to Al. But then I was like, how would they do that? Maybe in a mirror shot with an old Dean Stockwell footage from something else. You never know.
They might have been able to do that. Or they could get Jamie Walters, who played Bingo in A Leap for Lisa. Maybe they could age him and make him look like an older Al.
It's possible. Recast it. But my other thought was maybe it's not in their past or their recent past because it looked like Addison had an engagement ring on. So unless Addison was engaged to someone before Addison was engaged to Ben, then it takes place after the engagement. So I have no idea. But the one thing that stuck out of my mind is the whole storyline for the whole season is Ben leapt back to save Addison's life. Presumably, Ben is leaping out of the hallway to tackle Martinez to stop Addison from getting killed. and we see it's only a few frames, but we see Addison get shot in the shoulder. So that kind of gives away that Addison isn't being killed in the next episode, I think, unless it's some kind of misdirect. What do you think, Rama? Did you see that? What do you think of that whole thing?
Again, I'm not good at that, but I love hearing all these theories. It's amazing. I don't know, every time you mention one theory after the next, I'm like, oh, that could be it. Oh, that could be it. No, that could be it too. You guys are good at this. It shows your fandom on way above my level. So that's awesome. I just want a good episode, guys. It's gonna be amazing. Season 1 finale. I could feel it. I don't know if they're gonna bring out T1000. I don't care. Just bring him. Bring it on. Bring it on.
I reckon it'll be SB 1000.
There you go.
I love how this show also. I don't know which episode it was. I think Ben at one point said, "I love it when a plan comes together." I was like, "Oh man, the A-Team reference! I love it! When he said it, I grew up watching the A-Team as well, so it's a lot of nod to awesome shows of the past on this show.
Yeah, Salvation or Bust. That was. I think he said that.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's possible that maybe the whole thing with Scott Bakula not wanting to be part of the series or not wanting to do this, could it be a massive misdirect? Is it possible that they have actually managed to keep a fantastic secret? And is it possible that we might see Sam Beckett leap in somewhere in the final episode to save the day? To help out Ben.
To your point, this is the conspiracy theory part of me, I guess you could say, which is really tiny because I'm not good at doing theories. But just like it reminds me of Sylvester Stallone, saying I hate Creed 3. I don't want to be part of Creed 3. I don't want to come back as Rocky as Creed 3. But it just him saying that adds publicity to Creed 3. It's maybe Scott is just doing this as part of the
maybe he was told to say he doesn't want to be part of it. Yeah.
It just makes you want to watch Quantum Leap to see what happens. Maybe Scott might come back. That because Scott doesn't want to be part of it. So that's part of the conversation now. So that's my opinion at least.
Rama. That brings up an interesting thing. You recently at WonderCon got to interview the main cast and the showrunner, Dean Georgaris of Quantum Leap, and you did ask him about a possible Scott Bakula return. Rama, did you want to set those up for us?
Yeah, I'm interviewing on this clip Raymond and Dean and Caitlin. And the last question, I got to squeeze in, the final minute of asking Dean, hey, Sam is out there. Have you talked to Scott about coming back? Scott is a busy guy. Well, what's gonna happen? That's basically my question.
And you talked to Nanritha and Mason also. So let's go to those. Thank you so much for sharing those with us, Rama. And we'll be right back.
I love this show so much, Quantum Leap. I cried over so many episodes, because it's not just a time travel action. There's a lot of emotionally powerful moments, Ian with the Let Them Play episode, and Jenny's situation with her dad. So talk to me about the significance of bringing out these emotionally powerful moments, and also what can we expect from the rest of the season from your respective characters? What revelations we're going to be finding out about them? Anything more?
In terms of the emotional kind of punch of our show, I think it really helps sell the humanity of what the show is about, because the show is so deeply entrenched in just the human experience and in the empathy that we all should have for other human beings. And so I think seeing members of the team in the present kind of grappling with their own human experiences outside of the leap and outside of what's going on with Ben is really it offers a lot of opportunities to see us as completely multidimensional humans and to allow audiences a chance to connect with us in a different way beyond it just always being action and adventure, because that it's true to life. So much of getting close to other individuals is seeing them in various states of being and seeing them at their lowest and seeing them when they're anxious and when they're devastated. And so I feel like we've really gotten a chance to get to know all the characters, but especially like us two in recent episodes with Let Them Play and with Jen going into the leap. What was like last week?
Yeah, the courtroom.
The courtroom leap. It's been really, really cool to kind of watch the walls come down and the emotional releases of everyone and get to know us a little better.
Yeah. And I think as far as, the last 2 episodes, I think we'll see a little bit more of that, but really it's also just sort of everything that has been going on in season 1. You'll see kind of a lot of that stuff come to a head. There's some pretty amazing dynamic things. And I do, I think I can say this, that Martinez, aka Leaper X, comes back and we see there's a pretty big confrontation where really they're sort of struggling over the future of the program. So that comes together in a very cool kind of dynamic way. I think you'll be excited.
Judgment episode. Can't wait for it. Now, before I let you go, fun question. If you could time travel to the past, where, or I should say, when would you go to and why?
We both said 1920s earlier for 2 very different reasons.
Okay.
I would like to visit like late 20s Berlin and kind of see the whole pansy craze, like underground queer performers that were like at the height of popularity during that time frame, because it's just such a delicious moment in queer history, obviously before a very fascist regime kind of eliminated all of the history that existed there. And then Anrissa's 1920 story is very cool too.
Yeah, mine is sort of late 1920s. Over COVID, I read my great grandmother's autobiography, and that was right around the time she came over from Korea and went to school out here. She went to college in the States and then got her master's at Columbia. And because I never got to meet her, and she was such a dynamic woman that I learned through her book, I think it would be amazing just to be able to meet her in person and soak up, some pointers. And because she was sort of a groundbreaking, trailblazing person, I would love to just learn from her. And then also, as a bonus, because we're both going to be in the late 20s,
We could hang out.
We could meet up.
We could literally meet up.
I would love to come visit you
It'd be
in
great.
Berlin, late 20s.
That's an
You
episode.
guys show me around, like that. How fun would that be? That is an episode.
We'll pitch it.
Yeah.
As an Asian American myself, I just want to say thank you for representing us out there.
My pleasure.
Kamsahamnida.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you so much. I love this show so much. I cried over so many episodes, so tearful. You're so sweet, romantic, your characters. As an Asian American myself, I want to say thank you for representing our community out there in Hollywood, Raymond. And as an immigrant, the Ben's character, what's it like being a leading man on such a major broadcasting network show, where the Asian American heritage is really explored?
Oh man, that's such a big question. And I'm still processing, even 19, 20 episodes later. At the end of the day, I feel like I'm just an actor doing my job with the given circumstances being my background, and I can only use what I know from my life, and that my life looks like that of somebody who is very specifically Korean American and with an immigrant mother and an only child. So Ben Song has a lot of similarities with me, so I just bring myself to the role, and then everything else that, with whatever you're seeing that you can relate to specifically on that journey is just an extension of what I'm imbuing it with. So I can't really, outside of it, I can't really think too much critically on it. I just know that I'm bringing myself to it.
Thank you. Art imitating life, life imitating art. You and your characters share so much.
They called my mom.
Of being a former army yourself.
Yep.
So how much of that incorporates into your character? Did you also consult the writers about, writing Addison because you know so much about that world?
Yeah, no, I give notes all the time.
We don't take them.
No.
She gives them. You salute
No.
with the left.
Well, and here's the thing. You don't need to because they do their research. And Dean's done so many military shows, and he's so specific about getting it right, which is so lovely. So I really never felt like, oh, man, this is embarrassing. I hope no one in the Army sees this. so that's been really great. But yeah, and similarly, but in a much more narrow context, like that was my life. So there's things about my character I don't have to consciously add on to. I'm just like, yeah, like when I was that age doing that. You can just kind of bring those parts in and they're there, but you don't have to play them all the time because, you know, being a veteran or being in the military is just part of who somebody is. It's not all of who somebody is. And so finding that balance has been really fun in this role.
Final question. Yep. Sam is out there. Are you going to bring Scott back? Have you talked to him?
Scott is out there. He's leaping. It means one day he could always come back.
He's a busy
The door is open. And I think as time goes by, the new show will drift closer to the old show in terms of the way the universes works. So you never know. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And we're back. Rama, how cool is it? You got to meet him in person.
Maybe we finally found our third host, our third permanent host.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. Rama, you're the first host of a Quantum Leap podcast to meet all those people in real life. We meet them on Zoom all the time and stuff, but you got to see him in real life. So tell us about that whole experience. Great interviews, by the way.
Oh, man. I was geeking out, man. I was fangirling the whole time. As I mentioned earlier, I mentioned to Raymond and Narisa, because I'm Asian American, you know, so I thanked them for representing our community out there in Hollywood, and they were very appreciative of that comment. We talked about. I talked to Mason about the Let Them Play episode, and they could tell that I watched their show. You know, a lot of these interviewers out there, they get told by their boss to be there, and they just ask generic questions like, how did you get on board this project and stuff like that. But so that's how you know that they don't really watch the show, you know what I'm saying? But they could tell that I really love the show, and I think that comes out, you know, and they really respond to that really well, especially me knowing that Caitlin's a veteran and her character is also a veteran, you know, so that really lands really well. So I was a big fan, man. To meet them in person was such an honor and pleasure. And I told NBC reps afterwards, it's like, hey, remember me for San Diego Comic-Con, okay? So they're like, yeah, we love your coverage. So we'll see what happens in San Diego.
Awesome.
When the team here at QLP were watching your interviews, I sent the link as soon as I saw them drop. I sent the link to our chat, our group chat with all our hosts from the different Quantum Leap podcast shows. And we all commented on how cool the edit was that you left in Nanrissa, like getting her hair ready for the interview right before it started. That was a cool part, just to see her personality come through. So my question,
I don't think she even knew that.
No, I have a crush on Nanrissa, of course. Is she that beautiful in person as she comes across on screen?
Yes, and I included that, you know, because I thought it was going to be great, and it turned out great. And the thing is, she didn't even realize. She was just watching. She was looking at my the reflection on my camera, you know, to fix her hair. But I should have said something along the lines of, "Hey, this is Rama Screen. Welcome to WonderCon, and I'm speaking with," something like that. But I was just like, you know what? Let's get right to it, guys. I love the show because I want them to feel surprised, if you will, and to feel like candid, if you will. And it worked well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And you got to take some pictures with them too, besides the interview.
Yeah, most definitely. Mason and Raymond. I wish I could get a picture with all of them, but of course there's a bunch of press next to me as well, waiting to interview them. So I can only snatch a couple of them. But yeah, it's, a couple is good. Hopefully in San Diego or next year's WonderCon and for season 2, I could get more selfies with the rest of them.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is only season 1, so hopefully we got 5 more seasons. Who knows, 6?
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Who knows what can happen?
If Hayden's theories pan out, we'll get probably 7 seasons.
Hayden is usually right, so I try not to pay attention to what he says because I don't want to be spoiled. I don't know how he gets this information. This is crazy.
It's just my sick, twisted mind. I must think the same way that the writers do.
Rama, final thoughts on The Friendly Skies.
Final thoughts. I got all my notes covered already in our conversation, but just final thoughts. It was a great episode, and I wouldn't expect anything less from this amazing show that's so well written, so well thought out. Like I said, even the previous episode affects this one. Yeah, and intense, pulse pounding, suspenseful. Some of the adjectives that come to my head. I was like, oh my God, how is Ben gonna get himself out of this situation? Another win, and kudos to the writer, and kudos to the director, of course, and can't wait for season 1 finale next week, most definitely.
All right, 1 out of 5. What would you rate this episode?
4.5 flight attendant uniform out of 5.
I like it. Okay. Hayden.
Yeah, very little I can fault about this episode, apart from those couple of tiny little things that aren't realistic. But having said that, I liked every single second of the episode otherwise. I'm debating whether or not to give a full mark. Look, I will, just because I can I can suspend my disbelief slightly when the episode is really good. So I'm going to give it a full 5 Chekhov's Quaaludes out of 5.
Wow. Okay, now I got to come up with something.
I stole yours again, didn't I?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, come on, you're a diabetic. You've got an obvious one.
Yeah, I was going to go with insulin, but I was going to include the Quaaludes in there. So, okay. Well, I really enjoyed this episode. Last week, we were kind of worried that it was just going to be a filler episode, but I definitely think this was not a filler episode. This was a great episode of Quantum Leap. So they're getting better every time. They reached a high bar like midway through this series, I think, season, and they're just keeping on going. And I'm really impressed by every show that comes out. A couple things I liked about this episode. I liked that they focused on Ben's trauma from things that are happening in the past leaps, because he's going through a rough time. So they don't just shrug it off and he doesn't forget it. It affects him going forward. So I really appreciated that. I liked all the misdirects, including Corey mentioning that he took flying lessons, because as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, he's going to be the one to land the plane. But it turned out he wasn't. So I liked that they subverted those expectations. And just the music in the episode, the direction of the episode, the writing, the acting. I really thought that Ben and Addison together in this episode did really great. And of course, seeing Ian on the leap with Ben as a second hologram, that was great. Just the whole thing. I have to give it. I'm going to give it 7 Carolyn Rose lockets out of 5. So I'm giving it a full 7 out of 5. So I think I liked it. And just the fact that we got to see a little bit of Judgment Day made it that much better, because I am so super excited for Judgment Day, the possibilities of what can happen. It's going to be nuts. I'm sure it'll be a great episode. So I'm looking forward to that. So,
awesome. Rama, where can our listeners stalk you?
Yes, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Rama Screen, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Rama Screen. So that's it. Very simple.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap After Show. All right. And for the Quantum Leap Podcast, Quantum Leap After Show, I'm Albie.
And I'm Rama.
And I am your seductive flight attendant, Hayden McQueenie.
I wouldn't mind seeing you in that uniform, Hayden. And until next time,
wouldn't cover very much.
Until next time, when we're talking about Judgment Day, the season 1 Quantum Leap finale. I can't wait. Until then, we'll see you next time, everybody.